Hi everyone, back to part 4 of our vlog video series around Citrix solutions. My name is Ryan Freese. I have the pleasure of supporting our Citrix practice here at Ingram Micro, as well as some of our key data center initiatives as a part of our data center Delta Force team. So in our last video, if you watched it, we interviewed Damon Duncan, partner solutions engineer at Citrix, to learn more about what Citrix is doing with their Microsoft partnership. In that video, he walked us through a lot around what Citrix is doing around Azure Virtual Desktop, around Windows 365 Cloud PC. So if you're interested in learning more about AVD or Windows 365, definitely check out that video if you missed it. Today, I'm very excited to announce we have yet another guest speaker joining us today, Andrew Schmidt. He's our Senior Business Transformation Center engineer here with Ingram Micro for our Business Transformation Center. Andrew is joining us to discuss, more about our Business Transformation Center, which you'll probably hear us refer to as the BTC a lot in this video, just because Business Transformation Center is a bit of a mouthful. And really, he's going to walk us through the value that center brings to our partners, particularly around Citrix. So, Andrew, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And great to be working with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. To give everyone a little bit of background that's tuning in, I joined Ingram Micro about 3 years ago, and Andrew was actually supporting our Citrix business as one of 2 technologists. And he helped me out quite a bit, especially in the beginning. I was out of the Citrix world for a few years, so I had to ramp up, and Andrew was a key factor for that. So we're definitely in good hands with having somebody who's obviously knowledgeable about the BTC, but also really knows Citrix probably even better than I do. So Andrew, I certainly, I know the power of the BTC. I've been through the tour. It's kind of one of the perks we get as an Ingram Micro associate as onboarding, as well as I understand the benefits for our partners, right? But for those listening today, they might not necessarily have that understanding. Can you give everyone kind of an overview of what the BTC is to start out?
Sure. A lot of times we get pegged as like a demo and training facility, and that is part of it. We've got some stuff we're supporting out of here for you, Ryan. And we can do those demos. We can do partner technical enablement from the standpoint of helping partners see these technologies. But our mission really goes beyond that. One of the things that we really bring to the table is between myself and my peers here in the BTC, we've got a lot of experience in a lot of different technologies. And we talk about it from the standpoint of we're also the experiences of all the partners we've worked with. So we are well positioned to really help get honestly beyond the technology and be in a position to have those conversations about, what are the problems you're trying to solve for? What's the challenge your customer has? You want to get down into nuts and bolts and speeds and feeds? Absolutely, we can do that. But we can also talk about how we can solve a problem, then introduce you to the technologies that are necessary to implement that solution. And the way I like to put it is then we can close with, well, let me show you what that's going to look like. And that's really powerful. Most of our partners have some demo capabilities, but we have a lot more flexibility. We've got a lot more platforms. And especially when we're talking about Citrix, honestly, I think the best experience is when it's as far away from you as physically possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording today's video, but Andrew's background is actually real. It's not a fake background like mine is. This is not my apartment. I wish it was. I don't make, I think, quite enough to afford that yet in a downtown. But yeah, the BTC does a really good job, not just from a physical standpoint of being able to see the different layouts of how a typical clinician room might be set up, or what else you have, retail. What else am I missing, Andrew?
Yeah, we've got education space, a retail space, a healthcare space, and absolutely we can help partners who are looking to focus in on those space. But even if you're not necessarily building a practice in those space, we like to talk them as stages as well, because people get, if I introduce the concept of compliance or data security in a healthcare setting, people get it. They're familiar with HIPAA. They probably have a hospital in their town that was part of a ransomware attack. so they get it, so they understand it, and then it's an easy pivot to, well, this is why you need to do this in your business, even though you're not healthcare. So we really use these spaces to really, whether you want to look at it from the standpoint of maybe I have a healthcare customer in, I want them to feel that we understand that space, or whether it's just so we have a way to focus on a technology. I'm in a real live data center here. If you want to follow up with me, and I'll tell you about how I happen to have a headset that works fantastic in here. But that's kind of stuff what we have is we have a lot of the pieces next to what you're doing that you may not have even thought of. So we're always looking to start those conversations from, well, why does your customer think they need something? What's the problem they're having? Because there's always a lot more to it and a lot of different ways to approach those problems. And one of my views is if I can help a partner bring a different solution, whether it is completely different technology, which sometimes it will be, or just present the solution differently than their competition, we can really help them gain a real advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of hinted at this a little earlier, but the way work has really shifted. I mean, a lot of organizations, I remember just seeing a stat that around 70 to 75% of organizations are going to continue to have, a permanent hybrid work model. A lot of organizations are still fully remote, and we all know Citrix fits really, really well into this type of, work setting. Can you give us a little bit of a walkthrough of Citrix's involvement in the BTC, as well as how potential partners can leverage you and the rest of the BTC for their Citrix opportunities, or really if they just want to get an overview of Citrix in general?
So one of the things, and this is honestly why I chose to sit in the data centers are never going away. Obviously, Citrix has a huge play in cloud, but anybody who's really tried to move everything to cloud, no, it doesn't always work. And when we start talking about end user compute, it's the same situation. There are some things that fit very well in the cloud. There's other things that it makes a lot more sense to be on premises where that data is in a lot of cases. If you've got a lot of legacy applications running in your data center, there's a very strong argument for running the user sessions adjacent to those enterprise applications. If you're doing things where you're requiring GPUs for, whether it's a virtualization or a calculation kind of standpoint, you can't afford GPUs in the cloud. If you actually can afford GPUs in the cloud, I want to work for you. But in most cases, you're going to want to do that kind of stuff on premises. And again, that's going to be a bigger piece with everything we hear about AI and ML. And so really what we can offer partners is really a place to independently set up an environment. We leverage Citrix Cloud licensing on the back end, which I love from the standpoint of I don't know how many different domains that we currently have set up for stuff, but it's very, very flexible. So it makes it very easy if we need to set up a dedicated environment for something. We do a lot of, I would call it a passive Citrix demo, where we're using Citrix for remote access, presenting other technologies. It gives us a platform to support other things like thin client manufacturers. In a lot of cases, people don't have all of the pieces necessary to really show a solution. So they may have pieces of the puzzle where they're going to have an enterprise application on premises and look at delivering that as part of a session, and then we provide some other pieces of that as well. We've got a lot of good partnerships with other vendors from a hardware standpoint, networking, antivirus, backup, you name it. So we really have all of those pieces. So you're not just going to get here, let's watch the demo. We can actually help partners build out those environments that they really need to either show a difference versus their competition, or really to help the customer be comfortable moving forward with an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andrew and I have worked with quite a few resellers to set up some multi-vendor solutions, because it's very rare when we see a Citrix opportunity just leverage Citrix. It almost always leverages some sort of other provider, whether that be for thin clients, for data backup, for security. And that's really, I think, where our BTC shines. And Andrew, as well as his colleagues, in my opinion, they greatly help with those type of opportunities. So with that being said, Andrew, if our partners listening today, if they want to get in contact and engage the BTC in general around, other technologies or Citrix, what would you say, what would be their best next step?
Well, easiest one to remember is to reach out to us at btc@ingrammicro.com. You can also reach out to me, andrew.schmidt@ingrammicro.com. And I expect that people can reach out to you and you can put them in touch with me.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
and the other piece of it too is whoever your contact is at Ingram, if they don't know what the BTC is or how to contact us, we all need to get involved in that conversation. We do a lot with internal associates to get them to understand what we bring to the table for their partners. So honestly, if you're the rep that you work with or who you work with on licensing doesn't know about it, let me know and I'll make sure they get up to speed.
Awesome. And kind of a last follow-up question I always like to ask this. It's kind of like a lighthearted question at the end, and especially with someone like you who's so ingrained with touching all these different vendors and setting up all these different scenarios. I'm curious, where do you see technology heading over the next 5 years or so?
Well, 5 years is like 35 years in technology. So 5 years is a little bit tough. I guess I would say near term. Look at the past 18 months. What we have gone through has really proven there's a need for these technologies. Everybody now can work remote, work from home, okay, one way or another. I think there's a stat you need to add in there, Ryan, which is that whatever it is, 28% of companies that aren't doing a hybrid workforce are going to be in need of training services to help onboard new employees. We are seeing a lot of that where, you don't offer a remote option, I'm looking somewhere else. So I think short term, we're going to see a lot of doing what we're doing now. So hybrid workforce, remote work, being able to get the best expertise regardless of where they're at, except it's going to be by choice versus by need. So if I want to put my you haven't been listening to us hat on, most of what we're doing right now, what we've had to do to deal with the lockdowns and work from home is stuff we have been preaching for, how many years? And now we know we can do it. All right, everybody's experienced it. And now that the users have experienced work from home, there's no going back. All right, it's not going to be an acceptable choice saying, well, if you can't come into the office, you don't get paid because you can't work. Maybe in manufacturing where you physically have to be there, but in any kind of information worker standpoint, if you can't work from home now, that's a limitation of the company, and I would question their long-term viability. If we look out farther, I think it goes back to solution design, I guess I would say, is building on that, we can do this stuff idea. We're going to start looking at being much more granular. Okay, so I've talked about it. I mean, in my opinion, the technology has existed that I could build the necessary infrastructure for the best work experience for every single employee in an organization at a reasonable cost. It's just that we don't think that way. We want the same laptop image to every single user machine. Everybody gets the same desktop resources regardless of whether they need more or less. All right, so I think we're going to see a big change where we're starting to tailor the best way to deploy. All right, yes, I can put my application wherever I need it to be, but I've got to make decisions based on what's best. And in some cases, that may be truly multi-cloud where, on even number days, it runs on Azure, and on odd number days, it runs on AWS because the pricing's better, or whatever the criteria is. So I really see that, we've broken the mold of traditional one size fits all IT. And we're going to come back to a much more customized experience down to the end user.
Yeah, awesome. That's a lot of great insight. And I mean, I completely agree with you, especially with the limitation of, companies that aren't offering hybrid work or remote work options. I mean, my own friend circle and those who I even go to boxing with tell me about how they just love being able to work from home, and that's like the one benefit that they've seen from the pandemic. So I definitely see that as a huge value add for a lot of employees. And yeah, for organizations don't offer it, I could see employees go to organizations that do, because it's a benefit to them. But Andrew, thank you again for joining us today. And for all of you listening, remember, if you like today's video, smash that like button, go ahead and subscribe to our channel, hit the little bell notification so you get updated when new videos come out. Also, if anyone is interested in learning more about the BTC or Citrix, as Andrew mentioned, you can reach out to myself, you can reach out to Andrew. We'd be happy to have any conversation around Citrix, around the BTC, really any way you want to take that conversation. So just want to thank you all again for joining, and take care. We appreciate it. Bye all.
Thanks, Ryan.